What is up, everyone? 7 through 7 here, and we're going to be bringing back the Civilization Leader Guides. This video will be bringing you some information about Catherine the Great from Civilization VII. A highly prolific leader, Catherine excels at two different aspects of the game, both science and culture, able to blend them into one. The in-game embodiment of the saying, "one hand washes the other." Catherine cultivates high yields for two critical pieces of success in the game at once. By amassing great works, she will soar ahead of the competition, particularly in scientific and cultural output. Catherine's ability makes space for her to easily thrive in multiple gameplay aspects simultaneously, where other leaders will have to do the work separately. Catherine's leader ability, called Star of the North, gives +2 culture per age on displayed great works. Buildings with great work slots gain 1 additional slot, as well as cities settled in tundra gain science output equal to 25% of their culture per turn. This ability is absolutely fantastic within the context of Civilization VII, giving Catherine the room to grow strong and dependable while excelling at a variety of things at once. By claiming as many tundra settlements as possible and then filling them with great works, her culture and science yields can easily surpass her neighbors, particularly when paired with powerful civilizations. Having an additional slot for great works is nothing to scoff at either, making a pretty notable difference in the speed of reaching some legacy paths. This typically allows her to build one less of the respective building that houses great work slots than her rivals, allowing that production or gold to be spent elsewhere, as well as alleviating her of some of the pressure to turn all her settlements into cities, which is typically needed when going for great work-based legacy paths/victory conditions. She also will get extra science for free simply by pursuing her cultural focus. This is extremely impactful, allowing her to match the scientific yields of leaders more focused on the science victory without having to sacrifice cultural output to do so. Lastly, by having increased science and culture yields at the same time, it becomes a lot easier for you to tailor the minutiae of your empire when playing as Catherine, letting you get small advantages when possible that other leaders may have to ignore due to the intense specific focus their abilities often demand. Next up is Legacy Paths. In this section, I will discuss only the legacy paths that are relevant to Catherine's success or of ones that she excels at achieving. There are too many unrelated legacy paths to discuss all of their details. If you wish to go for an unrelated legacy path, do so either in tandem with a recommended one, or be ready to push your Civ gameplay ability and talent to win while working in different directions. First, Antiquity. Cultural. Wonders of the Ancient World. Although Catherine doesn't get any direct bonuses to wonder production, unlike other leaders, you often will find yourself going for this legacy path in order to establish a key cultural base for your empire. This will require some creative thinking in order to plan out wonder placement and production, but it is not that hard when paired with the right civilization. Use rough terrain bio-civs with a cultural focus, such as Greece, to make this easier, since it is pretty important to go for when playing as Catherine. Scientific. Great library. In a way, the legacy path Catherine is most suited for in Antiquity, her natural focus on great work accumulation calls greatly towards this legacy path. Generating codices will both enhance your science and culture at the same time, and establishing a scientific legacy for your empire at the beginning of the game will feel pretty good in the long term. Second, Exploration. Cultural. Toshakana. The first legacy path where great work production actually directly means cultural enrichment, Toshakana is practically mandatory for Catherine to pursue. This is arguably the first time when playing as her feels right, in a sense, because culture will be your main focus in order to supplement the other needs for your empire. Grab those relics, as many as you can, even feeling free to go over the required 12 for enhanced yields during this age. Scientific. Enlightenment. Not directly related to Catherine's abilities in any real capacity, this legacy path is still pretty important to consider going for, particularly when you aim to achieve a science victory. Catherine doesn't receive any bonuses towards growth or specialist placement, so it's time to get creative with growing your population and yields, particularly considering her spawn bias is towards tundra. Pair with science/growth focused civs when going for a science victory, since you don't want to miss any legacy paths of the victory you intend to achieve. Lastly, modern. Cultural, geographic society. Much like an exploration, this legacy path is where all of Catherine's abilities align. Victory is about great works and thus enhanced culture, among other things naturally. Grab as many artifacts as you can and quickly. The enhanced culture gained from displaying them will make it easier to research the various civics required to complete this legacy path in full and set yourself up for a culture victory. Scientific, space race. The enhanced science you may/will have developed for your empire can be transitioned into a scientific legacy in the modern age, though this is not without some difficulty. The increased science yields themselves can make a difference when it comes to rushing towards those late-game techs in order to unlock all of the space race projects. Though Catherine does not get any bonuses towards completing those projects, and typically will be playing as civs that do not either. This legacy path can be difficult if not set up for properly, though it is of course necessary if attempting a science victory, which is feasible for Catherine. The next section will be victory types, listed in order of relevance. Number 1. Cultural. The clear choice for Catherine's long-term strategy, Catherine will have focused on 2 of the 3 ages' cultural legacy paths, setting for her a solid cultural foundation to build a victorious empire upon. Across all 3 ages, she will have created dozens of great works to seriously increase her cultural production, as well as have produced buildings and wonders that aid in both regards. Having an extra slot for great works is nothing to scoff at either. She could more easily reach the great work milestones than her competition. Her science production is highly respectable, but it will always be built on cultural production, so I would say culture victories are the overall best choice for Catherine. Number 2. Scientific. A solid runner-up, Catherine will always have easy access to high science generation via her focused cultural advancement. Getting 25% of your culture yield converted into free additional science can make a huge difference, particularly if you are able to focus on increasing both yields at the same time. This will allow her to use a variety of civilizations, both those with science and culture focuses, in order to accelerate ahead in scientific output. She doesn't, however, gain any bonuses as to production for the science victory projects, so you will have to create high production yields on your own to complement this playstyle when attempting a science victory. Number 3. Militaristic. The first victory Catherine doesn't specifically focus on. She only receives tangential bonuses to the military victory via her increased science output. A scientific edge can often be a deciding factor in war in Civilization VII, though leaders in civs with decisive military advantages, like Trung Trok for example, can give Catherine trouble when she bends too far from her focus. Her increased cultural production can help her rush to an early ideology, though by that point you will likely have already started acquiring artifacts for the culture victory. Perhaps when paired with the right civs, this becomes more possible, but her efforts are best placed elsewhere. Number 4. Economic. Arguably the least focused of the 4, though military is not far off from economic. Catherine receives no real direct bonuses to the economic victory. Enhanced culture and science make some of the pieces of the economic victory come quicker, such as in getting factories early or making the Silk Road's legacy path somewhat easier to achieve. But the intense focus on gold output and rapid expansion are not benefited in any way by Catherine's abilities. If you have expanded rapidly enough to have access to lots of resources, odds are you either are yielding high science or culture, maybe even both. Catherine is a strong leader, enough to go for a victory that she doesn't exactly match, but I think it best to follow a focused path when trying to win a game of Civ. In this section, I will discuss different civilizations that pair well for Catherine in the different ages of the game. First off, Antiquity. Greece. The most straightforward and arguably best antiquity choice civ for Catherine, Greece is a highly flexible cultural civilization that can succeed at securing multiple legacies in this age. The conversion of diplomatic favor into culture yields via city-states and diplomatic endeavors, once the proper civics are researched, will aid Catherine's already high culture production, and thus science as well, in tundra settlements of course. The Logios is a great unique person for more intellectually focused empires, providing bonuses to culture, science, and diplomacy among other things. The Acropolis unique quarter is a nice cherry on top and certainly worth constructing for Catherine, providing extra yields to get the most out of your empire long term. Constructing Oracle will just add to your already strong cultural core. The Hoplite is a strong unique unit, though Catherine does not have to play militaristically, necessarily. Lastly, the rough/grassland spawn bias pairs well with Catherine's tundra bias, providing key tundra tiles for your core cities and giving productive and fertile regions to augment your growth. When Catherine is paired with Greece, her empire yields will always be high and varied, only via straightforward work. This makes it easy to pursue multiple legacies, not just culture or science. Greece also sets up Catherine for future eras, giving access to later civs that complement her playstyle, such as Bulgaria, though Bulgaria is easy to unlock. Rome. A solid secondary choice for when Greece is not available, or for when you aim to play in a more wide manner. Rome blends expansion and culture in a way that can be maneuvered to fit Catherine's overall goals. Extra culture on districts melds well with Catherine's pursuit of high cultural yields, which is only furthered when constructing the unique Forum Quarter, which in practice functions in a similar manner to the Acropolis in terms of yields. The Colosseum is a strong wonder and contributes to your cultural success. Rome's military bonuses do not directly pair with Catherine's abilities, though they must be made use of to expand your cultural reach, and military strategies are often benefited by increased science. Egypt. A solid cultural antiquity choice civ, Egypt can work as a sort of backup plan for Catherine when civs with better terrain biases are unavailable or you want to pull more of a wildcard strategy in your game. Being biased towards desert, navigable rivers, and tundra can create some conflicts that may make it hard to make use of both Catherine's and Egypt's bonuses at the same time. But if this can be pulled off, which sometimes may not be in your control, it can certainly work. Out of the 3 civs I have listed here, Egypt is the only one who gets any kind of direct bonus to production, which is essential for constructing wonders. The Necropolis Unique Quarter and Pyramids Wonder are both very strong when playing for the Antiquity Cultural Legacy, but both are terrain dependent in their construction, which may get hard to manage if there is a lot of tundra, which is technically good for Catherine, though not for Egypt. Finally, Egypt unlocks the Opposites, an extremely powerful civilization that excels at both science and culture and is otherwise hard to unlock. This brings us to the next age, Exploration. Bulgaria, a civ you will find yourself coming back to many times when playing as Catherine. Bulgaria, though not an explicitly cultural civ, is benefited by a playstyle that revolves around accruing relics and building many temples. Catherine's focus on great works and buildings that house them pair quite well with these aspects of Bulgaria's abilities. Using your advanced culture from the previous age to quickly research the Bulgarian civics will enhance your quest to gather relics as well as give you quick access to the Rila Monastery Wonder, which, if completed, will give you a path towards getting even more relics without even having to use missionaries. Since Bulgaria gets production in all cities when pillaging enemy tiles, and Rila Monastery provides relics when wonders are built, you should build wonders while at war and use the extra production to speed up their production, and thus speed up the gathering of relics. Even if there are layers to playing Bulgaria successfully as Catherine, the results speak for themselves, giving easy access to rapid relic production, which will enhance the yields of your empire even further in turn. The militaristic bonuses, particularly in the defensive advantages granted by the Hidden Fortress unique improvement, are a nice touch whether you want a strong defensive core or a wide expansionist breadth. Abbasid. Just generally one of the strongest exploration age civs, Abbasid is useful when playing as Catherine for times when you want to focus on science just as much as culture. Abbasid's unique ability rewards you for placing many specialists, which naturally lends towards the science legacy path and a scientific playstyle generally, especially after building many Ulema unique quarters. Yet they are not culturally limited at all. The House of Wisdom Wonder pairs particularly well with Catherine, providing slots for relics and granting science on top of their standard yields, which is only further enhanced by Catherine's abilities. The only real drawback for Catherine concerning the Opposites is the surprising difficulty of unlocking them. Improving 3 camels is much harder than it sounds, particularly for a leader with a tundra spawn bias. This would cause you to either play as Egypt, which has some drawbacks as previously discussed, and when you do, opposite is the clear progression, or to go out of your way to found or conquer settlements with camels, which can be distracting or simply not even feasible given some game circumstances. Still, opposite excels so well at an intellectual playstyle while melding really well with Catherine's abilities. So if there is the chance to take them, it is certainly worth considering. Majapahit. Another civ that works really well at both the science and culture legacy paths and the exploration age, Majapahit excels at relic accumulation and specialist placement alike. The Pura unique order, granting a relic upon its completion, makes it much easier to acquire relics on top of the methods when using one's religion. Its buildings yields are a nice touch as well. Having a unique missionary in the Pedanda is another pleasant bonus, granting additional yields to a leader who already would have been focusing on spreading her religion. The extra specialist limit in all non-capital cities is a huge bonus towards completing Enlightenment, which can aid a scientifically centered game when playing as Catherine or when you wish to enhance your scientific output. The only drawback of the Majapahit is the difficulty of unlocking them, since you won't often be playing as Khmer or Moria with Catherine. Getting 3 pearls is honestly very difficult, and although having 3 naval trade routes is easier, it's not always feasible. Regardless, if it can be unlocked, you won't regret playing Majapahit with Catherine as the leader. Normans. I want to briefly mention the Normans here, since there will be times when playing as Catherine that choosing the Normans for exploration makes the most sense, or at least the most sense out of one's available options, particularly if they don't have the DLC for Bulgaria. Nothing about the Normans particularly relates to Catherine's emphasis on great work production, nor does the limited cultural yield from the Bailey really make up for the militaristic focus of the Normans in any way to aid Catherine's focus. However, when playing as Rome and Greece, and you don't have the option to play as Bulgaria, it is difficult to necessarily pick Spain over Normans, the only other option, since Spain's military focus has almost nothing to do with culture, while at least the Normans need many traditions to make the most of their bonuses and units. The Normans also have good synergy with Rome and Mexico, 2 civs worth considering for Catherine, due to their focus on tradition policy slots. This brings us to the final age, the modern. Russia, the obvious choice for Catherine when it comes to the modern age. Russia was practically built to match Catherine's abilities and biases. Free science and culture on all districts, doubled in tundra, provides the additional yields for Catherine to rush towards whichever victory you find best when playing as her. This should easily proc, having settled in the tundra in the Antiquity era and having built many strong districts in the Exploration. By researching Russia's unique civics, Catherine can easily even further propel her science and culture yields far above the competition. The bonuses towards farms and growth are a nice touch for late-game specialists, which again can provide essential yields. Not only does Hermitage have many slots for great works, it also provides very high bonuses towards cultural output from great works on display. In the end, Russia has so many different aspects that work directly into Catherine's benefits, and she will always have access to Russia, meaning it can be chosen regardless of your previous civ choices. When done all together, Catherine can seriously propel her focused yields in the late game, soaring towards any preferred victory conditions. Siam, a solid backup choice, particularly when Catherine rules over lands with many navigable rivers. Siam has unique ways to excel in cultural output during this age. Siam's unique civics turn diplomatic relations with others, and city-states in particular, into high cultural yields which work flexibly for Catherine. This works even better if having played as Greece in the Antiquity age. On the other hand, if Catherine led a civ like Egypt that has a bias towards navigable rivers, the Bong unique improvement enhances the yields of those tiles via a strong focus on culture. Doi Sutep works well as the wrapping to bring it all together, greatly increasing the cultural yields of having become suzerain of many city-states. Mexico. A good option that works for Catherine in specific circumstances, Mexico has a very intense focus on cultural output that blends with Catherine's abilities. The Revolution government can provide Catherine with enhanced cultural or scientific yields at your discretion, which pairs well with her already strong basis in both yields. The Zocalo unique quarter also outputs strong cultural yields, both via the Catedral and via its construction. The Palacio de Bellas Artes specifically works towards Catherine's focus on great works, arguably the piece of Mexico's kit that best fits with Catherine's playstyle. Mexico can be hard to unlock for Catherine, or even undesirable, since it will require her to have 3 distant land settlements and desert or tropical tiles. Conquering foreign lands can be counterintuitive for many exploration age strategies when playing as Catherine, due to the attention needed for the growing of her own cities, and both tropical and desert tiles work against her natural inclination towards having cities in tundra. Still, Mexico is a strong and flexible civ that is worth understanding how its playstyle blends with Catherine's for the moments it might need to be picked. Here are a few theoretical civ paths I have come up with to demonstrate what a Catherine game might look like, with some unique tags invented by myself. Eastern Orthodoxy, Antiquity, Greece, Exploration, Bulgaria, Modern, Russia. Cultures of the Eastern Rivers, Antiquity, Egypt, Exploration, Abbasid, Modern, Siam. A History of Traditions, Antiquity, Rome, Exploration, Norman, Modern, Mexico. This list is by no means exhaustive, and there is of course lots of room to maneuver one's civ's choices. The next section will focus on wonders broken up by the age. First age, Antiquity. Great Stele. A great touch when going for the Antiquity cultural legacy path. Getting free gold for each wonder produced in its settlement gives Catherine room to maneuver flexibly, something she will already want to do. This wonder is not essential, but it is nice when constructing many other wonders. Ha'amunga Amaui. Though it may be hard to place due to needing a coastal tile next to grassland or tropical, getting a free cultural attribute point early on can make a noticeable difference. When placed in a settlement with many fishing boats, this wonder can grant high cultural yields to it, something essential for Catherine. If the city center itself is on tundra, this goes even further for her. Nalanda. Extra codex slots and a free scientific attribute point play perfectly into Catherine's playstyle. Attribute points are quite valuable, and it's worth even more when coming with great work slots attached. Oracle. Easy to place but not essential, Oracle can grant free culture where it might otherwise be hard to get it. Having narrative events grant culture can make them even more worthwhile for Catherine, ensuring they will always be useful to her when found. Pyramid of the Sun. Incredible when placed in a tundra city, extra culture on each quarter can snowball with great strength for Catherine, seriously aiding in granting her the yields she can best make use of. Pyramid of the Sun is arguably the most fitting antiquity wonder for her. This brings us to the next age, the Exploration. El Escorial. While not essential for Catherine, there is never any harm in having additional happiness or relic slots. Use this wonder when playing as civs that focus on celebrations. Forbidden City. When built in a tundra city with many fortifications, Forbidden City can seriously increase its cultural and scientific output. It provides strong yields that rewards a tactical/defensive playstyle, or simply gives value to walls where there otherwise would not be any. Hale o Keawe. Although it might be hard to build due to it being restricted from placement next to tundra tiles, Hale o Keawe can be a solid addition for Catherine when she controls many coastal cities in a variety of terrains. Extra relic slots just sweetens the deal. House of Wisdom. An incredible wonder for Catherine, gaining extra relic/relic slots, all the while granting science on great works, perfectly plays into her strategy of mixing culture and science via great works. This wonder is always worth getting as Catherine in the Exploration Age. Notre Dame. Another wonder that blends science and culture in the exploration age, having specialists provide culture during celebrations can really pay off when going for both the science and culture legacy paths at the same time. Just make sure to have a solid happiness output when using Notre Dame. Otherwise, the bonus for specialists may not be procced. Rila Monastery. A very strong wonder when it comes to gathering relics. Rila Monastery gives Catherine even more options when it comes to getting the great works she loves so very much. Build this wonder as soon as you can, ideally, and then pump out the other wonders you desire in order to make as many relics as possible. This brings us to the next and final age, the modern. Changde Mountain Resort. Build this wonder and then make a trade route with every civ that you don't already have one with. This will cause your overall culture yield to seriously increase, which pairs very well with Catherine's strong ability to garner high cultural yields already. For example, in games with 6 civs, Changde Mountain Resort can result in a plus 25%, since you can't trade with yourself, overall cultural increase, which is absolutely massive. Eiffel Tower. A Catherine who has been playing very tall, or one who has been making use of the Pyramid of the Sun, will find Eiffel Tower to be a useful addition. This can make a notable impact on the yield of an important city, producing higher and higher amounts of culture, or even science if it's in Tundra. Hermitage. A wonder built for Catherine, much like the civ it's attached to. Hermitage provides a significant buff to culture output in cities with great works, which for Catherine should be all of them. This is a critical wonder for each modern age played as Catherine. Oxford University. A pretty versatile modern age wonder, 2 free texts can make a big impact on speeding down the research tree, which is useful for Catherine when playing scientifically. This is still a strong boon regardless, and a free wildcard attribute point is nothing to scoff at. Palacio de Bellas Artes. A solid secondary great work wonder, good to build after Hermitage. Extra happiness on great works is a nice touch, but it is particularly strong when paired with civs who focus on celebrations, such as Mexico. In the next section, I'll discuss governments and social policies. I will not be discussing civ-unique policies in this section because that would become too expansive and detract from the focus on Catherine as the main subject of the video. Long story short, almost every time, getting your civ-unique policies will be useful. The first age, the Antiquity. Governments. Classical Republic. The most obvious choice for Catherine, Classical Republic is useful for both the cultural and scientific legacy path in Antiquity. Use the bonus towards wonder production when trying to get ahead culturally, and use the extra culture yield whenever you want both your culture and science yields to increase in order to generate more codices. Though the increased science from despotism is individually higher, which can be useful in specific circumstances, the general versatility of Classical Republic applies to Catherine more so overall. Social policies. Chiefdom. +2 culture on the palace. The most common first policy pick, use the extra culture to establish a cultural basis for your empire early on. Drama and poetry. +50% production towards culture buildings. This policy is useful for establishing a more long-lasting cultural core than chiefdom. Use it to increase the yields of high-value quarters and get up amphitheaters before the age ends. Ethics. +1 culture on specialists. This policy is a useful way to continue to get culture when playing scientifically. Use ethics to continue high yields even when culture is the secondary focus in a moment. Hospitality. +3 culture for every city-state you are suzerain of. This policy is useful when playing as Greece or any other diplomatic-focused civ. Use it to turn those suzerainships into culture generators. Literature. +50% production towards science buildings. Useful for establishing a scientific base for your empire and making room for Antiquity-age great works. Literature is highly useful for Catherine. Use it to get libraries and academies much quicker. Tool making. +1 production, and +1 science on the palace. The alternative first choice policy. Toolmaking is the right one to pick when you aim to play scientifically in the long term. Although chiefdom more directly applies to Catherine, toolmaking still is worth mentioning. This then brings us to the next age, exploration. Governments. Theocracy. Another easy choice. The increased culture directly increases the yields Catherine aims to increase, while the buff civilian units makes missionaries stronger in an effort to gather more relics. Though feudal monarchy's extra growth is good for the science legacy, which also has its purposes, theocracy appeals more towards Catherine's focus of using culture to then create science. Social policies. Bourgeoisie. +4 culture and +4 gold in homeland cities. This policy is a great way to gain extra yields in this age, particularly because Catherine will most often be playing tall and focusing on her own homelands. Commune. +20% production towards overbuilding. +3 combat strength for fortified districts. Useful for when attempting the science legacy path, enhanced overbuilding from commune can make increasing the yields on high-value quarters all the easier. Constitution. +25% food and +25% happiness towards maintaining specialists. Another policy tailored for the science legacy path. Constitution makes the expenses of specialists much easier to bear, and the accumulation of further ones more rapid. Enlightenment. +1 science on each science adjacency. Yet another science-oriented policy. Use Enlightenment to push the yields of your science buildings over the edge when playing scientifically as Catherine. Evangelism. +1 civilian movement. +1 missionary charge. This policy is great for when Catherine needs to get most of her relics from missionaries. Their power becomes greatly increased from enhanced movement and extra charges, making the race to fill out great work slots all the easier. Hakeem. +5 culture per alliance. This policy is useful when playing diplomatically, as 5 culture per alliance can make for a pretty impactful increase in yield, though its impact is less felt with no or only a few alliances. Patronage. +1 culture on each culture adjacency. Great for when pairing science and culture like Catherine typically does. Extra culture on culture adjacencies helps both legacy paths at once. Patronage is a pretty key policy for Catherine during the exploration age. Rationalism. +15% gold and +15% science in your own cities that are converted to your own religion. Another policy that directly appeals to Catherine's playstyle. Rationalism rewards Catherine with solid yields for pursuing religious focus, something she will almost always work for in pursuit of relics. Religious orders. +15% culture and +15% happiness in your own cities that are converted to your own religion. The better version of rationalism for Catherine. Extra culture for playing culturally minded is exactly the kind of thing Catherine looks for. Religious orders can be used in tandem with rationalism for even further enhanced yields. Renaissance. +10% production towards constructing wonders. +2 culture on displayed great works. A fantastic way to enhance the yields of the many great works Catherine should be collecting. Renaissance is a key policy for her during the exploration age. Extra production towards wonders is a very nice touch, especially when paired with Rila Monastery for extra relic production. Vassalage. +3 culture and +3 gold for each city-state you are suzerain of. A solid bonus for when playing diplomatically. Vassalage is a more developed way to turn suzerainships into high output yields. This policy does lack when Catherine is not playing diplomatically, though. This brings us to the next and final age, the modern. Governments. Elective Republic. Arguably the easiest government choice of all 3 ages for Catherine, this gives her the choice to buff science or culture, the 2 most important yields for her, as she sees fit. It is both flexible and specific. You will find yourself choosing it nearly every time. Social policies. Cultural imperialism. +6 culture and +6 gold for each city-state you are suzerain of. The most advanced way of making good yields off of suzerainships. A long-term diplomatically oriented Catherine can make great yields when using cultural imperialism. Humanism. +2 culture from specialists, but +50% specialist happiness maintenance. A great way to get extra culture from having placed specialists all game, Catherine will often be taking humanism in the modern era. The extra happiness maintenance for specialists is only a problem when playing as civs that depend on celebrations. Preservation societies. +3 science from displayed great works. Another instance of melding science and culture, preservation societies is a must-have for a modern-era Catherine. Whether going for a science or culture victory, she will find great use in this policy. Social science. +2 science from specialists, but +50% specialist food maintenance. Very useful for when pursuing a science victory. Catherine will likely have placed many specialists by this point that will notably enhance her overall science yield when paired with social science. In this section, I will discuss ideology and how it relates to Catherine in the modern age. Democracy. The best choice for Catherine when going for a culture victory, the numerous bonuses towards cultural output, is exactly the kind of thing Catherine looks for. Some policies can even be used by her to enhance her science output directly or indirectly. Democracy may be worth considering regardless of the victory type you are going for when playing as Catherine. Communism. A solid choice when you are sure you're going for a science victory. The strong bonuses to growth, science output, and production can help seal the deal whenever one is trying to go for a science victory. Communism best fits a Catherine who has had a game-long scientific playstyle. Very useful for when pursuing a science victory. Catherine will likely have placed many specialists by this point that will notably enhance her overall science yield when paired with social science. This brings us to the penultimate section in which I will discuss mementos. There are many mementos in Civ 7, too many useful ones to discuss all of them here. I will talk to some standout ones for Catherine, but feel free to make use of other ones that provide key science or culture yields as you see fit. Here are some examples of good mementos for Catherine. Altar set. +1 culture from specialists. A great way to get passive income when trying to mix a cultural and scientific playstyle. This memento is useful for Catherine when pursuing either respective victory condition. Eagle Banner. +2% science on cities for each great work that they contain, max +20%. One of the strongest mementos for Catherine's playstyle, Eagle Banner effectively blends science and culture by enhancing her leader ability even further. It is so strong that it even has a hard limit, which won't always be reached, to be fair. False Beard. +2 culture on wonders. For a leader that relies on a lot of wonders, this memento can really pay off in the long run. Use False Beard when gearing towards a culturally focused game. Great Imperial Crown. +2 science per age in towns on Tundra. A pretty useful memento for Catherine, particularly when playing wide. Great Imperial Crown can either allow towns that you can't turn into cities to still provide some passive science income, or simply reward you for playing wide and claiming as many tundra settlements as possible, whether you intend to make them cities or not. Noli me tangere. +10% science, culture, and gold per age for each legacy path completed. A fantastic memento for any leader who can excel in multiple fields at once. Noli me tangere works well for any Catherine game, particularly when you use her multifaceted focuses at once. This brings us to the final section, the conclusion. In the end, Catherine is one of the strongest leaders in Civ 7, being that she is able to excel at science and culture at the same time without having to overexert herself to do so. Science provides key structural and technological advancements, while culture provides access to the passive modifiers to make specific playstyles possible. Both are important yields in this installment's meta, and no leader can match Catherine's ability to have both going strong at once. Although she is dependent on Tundra to make it happen, her spawn bias makes getting access to Tundra quite simple, and her bonuses are strong enough that it doesn't matter if you continue to expand outside the Tundra once you have claimed all of that biome for yourself. Having consistent access to a well-suited modern age Civ makes Civ paths rather flexible, since no matter what, Catherine can end where she needs to. You will find with Catherine it is rather easy to secure multiple legacy paths at once, ensuring your victory in the long term. Rating: S tier. Catherine's versatility and wide-reaching strengths make it hard for other leaders to match her yields and power. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned a few things about how to play Catherine in Civ 7 and maybe the game at large in itself. Feel free to interact with this video if you enjoyed. Otherwise, have a great day.